How's everyone doing today? Thanks to those of you that are watching. I really appreciate it. Those of you who are joining me today, great. I really appreciate it. If you could, when you watch them, if you could just say watched or give me some kind of feedback that these things are being watched, so I'm not just, wasting my time here. But hopefully some of you are getting something out. I've seen some comments, and that's encouraging. Right now, I think I'm going to go along with the lectures here, given the attendance so far, and then we'll see what they do with the AP. And I hear they might do like 45 multiple questions online, no writing. That's total hearsay, but that's some of the stuff that we're hearing right now. And if that ends up happening, then we might gear up with some more assignments to like prep you, and hopefully get some college credit out of this situation. But right now, we're just going to continue with history, and I'm not going to worry about the assignments right now. So today, we're going to leave the Pacific, and we're going to be heading back to Europe, and we're going to talk about Hitler turning on the Russians, which I've been teasing for some time here. Just as a quick reminder, when we last left Europe, we did the Battle of Britain. So Hitler's taken most of the continent. He's allied with Italy. Spain is fascist, non-aggression. No, I shouldn't say that. There's no non-aggression pact, but they're fascist, and there's not going to be any aggression. And then with the Soviet Union, we've got the non-aggression pact there. So besides some areas in Eastern Europe like Greece, which I'm not going to spend a lot of time with Hitler rolling into taking Greece and Romania and some of these other areas, but he will. England's pretty much all that's left. Now, the situation with England and Germany is the Germans cannot get to England. Like, they've lost the Battle of Britain, they can't get air supremacy, and the British are getting more planes in the air every single day. So that ain't happening. The British are not in a position to land in Europe. Hitler has fortified Europe. We'll get to that with D-Day, but he calls it Fortress Europe, and the British are not in a position to be launching any kind of amphibious assault in Europe. So both sides are looking for a place to really get at each other. And unfortunately for North Africa, it's going to be them. One reason why is simply it is a place to fight. Another reason is if you can gain North Africa, then you're going to have access to the Middle Eastern oil fields, which are becoming very valuable with tanks and planes and these battleships. Oil's becoming huge. So in this situation, North Africa is becoming important. Now, on a German end, we're going to have the Nazi Corps, Nazi Africa Corps. This is their symbol. And their general is Erwin Rommel. Now, I've talked about Rommel before. We had him going through France when he ripped through the Ardennes there with Heinz Guderian. And, pinned the Allies at Dunkirk. So, we've talked about him before. He's a very competent general. In fact, he's probably the best general that the Germans had to offer in this situation. Now, when we're looking at Rommel in Africa, there's an important thing, a little story I want to tell you with Rommel. Rommel is not Mr. Nazi. He's a German soldier. No doubt, obviously. But he's not a Nazi. In fact, when Rommel finds out about the Holocaust, he will actually try to kill Hitler on 2 separate occasions. Neither of these times will work out for Rommel, and Hitler will end up getting him in the end. And I'll talk about that a little bit later on in the story. But he ends up trying to blow up Hitler's plane one time, and then there's a movie based on the other time called Valkyrie, where they place a bomb in Hitler's war room, and both efforts fail. But Rommel's an interesting character because he's fighting for the bad guy. In a lot of ways, he is a bad guy. I mean, he's fighting for the Nazis. But he's got that humanity side to him where he's not pro-Holocaust. He tries to stop it, and so he's an interesting character. Now in Africa, Rommel is going up against the British Africa Corps, which is led by this guy right here, and his name is Bernard Montgomery, nicknamed Monty. Nothing against Montgomery as a general. He's capable. He's going to make some mistakes, but he's also does some good things as well. Montgomery is similar to MacArthur in that Montgomery loves himself, boy. So Monty is known for stealing people's glory, things of that nature. I'm not the biggest fan of Montgomery, but I can't say he's not a competent general. He is, and he's going to be running this situation in North Africa. Now, Montgomery's always better supplied than Rommel. That's because the British control the Mediterranean. So that English Navy's in the Mediterranean, and they don't let anything across, and Montgomery's always got more stuff in Africa. Rommel, a lot of times, has to use very innovative tactics to help out in Africa. This is one of the reasons he's nicknamed the Desert Fox. For instance, one thing that Rommel does is, they're fighting mainly in these desert-type areas, and when your army's moving across the desert, it whips up a decent dust cloud. Well, bigger dust cloud, bigger the army. So what Rommel would do is he would put jeeps out in the front, put fans on the back of all the jeeps, and then those fans would start blowing, and you get these big dust clouds. And the British would look at it and go, "Oh my Lord, Rommel's been reinforced. This is a massive army. We need to evacuate." And sometimes he could get the British to back off, even with bigger forces on the British end, because of tactics like this. So he's very sly. He is kind of like a fox. This war in North Africa has started up here. We're going to spin back around to this in a little bit and talk about the conclusion, but I just want you to know what's going on in North Africa, that fighting has shifted there. Another place that we're going to see a shift in fighting is the North Atlantic, and to a degree the Baltic Sea. The British and the Germans are fighting for control of these seas. Now, the English obviously, they have a huge advantage here with the Royal Navy. I mean, it's the best Navy in the world, and, they've been doing it for a long time. So, the English, as far as surface ships go, they're looking good. However, the Germans are back to their submarines. And these submarines can be very, very helpful in combating battleships and cruisers and at times aircraft carriers. In that, they are stealth, they operate undersea, and the Germans have got some subs now that, oh man, they can stay underwater for a couple days easy at this time. In fact, the capabilities of these subs are to such that when we get into the war, you got German subs in the Gulf of Mexico just sinking American ships left and right. New York too. I mean, for instance, I've read a couple of books where people in Alabama would just sit on the coast of Mobile and just watch those boats go out there and just get crushed by submarines. So it's not just in Europe. I mean, these subs have range and they can cause some damage. The Germans have improved their tactics. They operate in what are called wolf packs, groups of 5 or 6 subs, and they go out and hunt together in groups. One of their famous things that they would do is they would, if they came across a bunch of British ships, they would just hit one ship and then wait for the other ships to kind of slow down and help the ship that's sinking, and then just crush them all, which is horrible because the British got to a point where they couldn't stop. It's just like, if that cruiser's going down, like, good luck for those guys, but like, we got to keep moving. So some pretty horrible tactics. Now, there's actually, it's not going to be out till the summer, hopefully, but there's a new Tom Hanks movie out that has to deal with this fighting in the North Atlantic, and they do a really good job with the submarines and the destroyers. I can't remember the name of it right now, but I will put it on there on Google Classroom a little bit later when I see it. If you just type Tom Hanks World War II movie, the trailer's going to pop up. But it looks pretty cool. I wish it was out right now. So, these submarines are going to become a massive problem for the British. And really will be a problem throughout the entire war. It's not like subs ever are not a problem, but certainly in 41 and into 42 and to a degree 40, the amount of cargo that the British are having sunk. I think in like 41, end of 41, it's like 60% of all merchant cargoes being sunk by these subs. And there's no way England can supply themselves with those kinds of numbers. So the English are trying to come up with some way to deal with this. And they're going to develop what is called a depth charger. It's an underwater bomb. So what you're going to do is, you know, a ship gets hit by a sub, and then you've got sub hunters, which are typically destroyers or cruisers. And they're going to make a circle around that area where that sub, they think it is. And then they're going to start throwing these depth chargers in the water as fast as they possibly can. And the hope is that you hit one, or if they're traveling in packs, hopefully, you know, maybe a couple of these subs. And the thing about depth chargers is, I'm sure you probably have like dove to the bottom of a pool to get like a penny or something like that. And you know, the pressure in the ears. I can't scuba dive because of the pressure in my ears. I can't pop my ears. But you felt that pressure, and same thing with this depth charger. Once the pressure gets to a certain point, this little pin goes in on the charger, and the thing blows up. Now, when we're dealing with submarines, okay, you don't have to hit that thing dead on. Oh, sorry about that. You don't have to hit that thing dead on. You just have to create a little puncture in the hull, and you're sitting pretty good. You know, that ship's going to go down. So you just have to hit the sub just a little bit to take that thing down. Like I said, subs are never not going to be a problem. They're a problem to the very end of the war. However, this does help nullify them to a degree. Now, in the struggle for the North Atlantic, the Germans are losing. You know, even with these subs, they're losing. And the Germans don't understand what we understand about subs today. So, like, if I could go back in time and I could advise Hitler, which I wouldn't do, but if I could, I would say, put everything into subs. There's no need for surface ships. You can't compete. You know, just put everything into subs and just sink as many boats as you can. Which the Germans start doing in like 44, early 45, but that's too late. So they don't realize how important subs are yet. And they still have some big surface ships, and in fact, they will put out the largest surface ship in the European war, which is this boat right here called the Bismarck. And the Bismarck is supposed to kind of change the tide in the North Atlantic for the Germans. Here's another shot of the Bismarck straight on, just to give you an idea on how big this boat is. This is about the ship that Columbus would have taken to the New World. And look at that, boy. Look at those guns. Absolutely massive. Now, when the Bismarck leaves German harbor, it enters into the Baltic Sea. The British know it. They're going to send two ships, the Prince of Wales and the HMS Hood, to intercept this boat. And man, the Bismarck comes across these two boats, and I don't know exactly why, but it zooms in on the Hood first, which is the smaller ship. It's a cruiser. The Prince of Wales is a battleship. And they just blow the Hood to kingdom come. I mean, I'm not talking about sink the Hood. I mean, the ship explodes, which normally does not happen in oceanic warfare. But I think the survivors of the Hood is like 6 or 7 guys. It's horribly low. And once the Prince of Wales sees that, you know, and they start taking the full brunt of the Bismarck, they hightail it out of there. And the Bismarck wins its first big battle. Now, the Germans being the Germans, you know, they do have their weaknesses, and one of their weaknesses is their arrogance. And they should have sent the Bismarck out into the Atlantic and just let that thing hunt out there, boy. I mean, it would have been a disaster. But they don't. They sail it right down the English Channel, right off the French coast, just kind of begging the English fleet to come for it. Well, they do. You know, they're going to send a couple cruisers, 2 battleships, and although the Bismarck probably actually can deal with that, the bigger problem is when you're right off the English coast, they can use their airplanes. And, you know, once the airplanes are brought in, now the Bismarck's in some trouble, boy. In fact, as the Bismarck is fighting and holding its own, The ship is hit in the rudder with a torpedo. The rudder steers the boat, so when the rudder's bent, the Bismarck can only go in a circle, and eventually, 8 torpedoes later, they take it down. The Bismarck sits at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean today. There it is. I doubt with the quality on my phone you can see this, but right here is a swastika on the front of the boat, kind of a eerie reminder of what that ship was. The sinking of the Bismarck is essentially the sinking of the British Navy, the German Navy. When the Bismarck goes down, the German surface fleet is over. Subs are a problem, but the seas belong to the British. Now we will move to our last thing for today, and that is the invasion of Russia. Now, certainly, this has got to be considered Hitler's most idiotic move. He's avoided a 2-front war, which is probably his most brilliant move. He has been, staggered here with the British. He's not been able to win that. But he's always felt that the future of Germany is in Russia, and I've said that from the beginning. And he's been dying to turn on Stalin here this whole time. And when he fails in England, I think it's probably a little bit of the failure itself makes him want to, get back on the horse and get a triumph. But it's also, he feels like the resources of Russia could put Germany over the top where they could take out the English, finally. So there is some logic there, but overall it's a horrible move. And in fact, when he approaches his generals with it, to a man, they're all like, please don't do this. We're not even done with the English yet. Why create the 2-front war when we don't even have to create it? Hitler will not listen to them. Now, Hitler has some reasons why. If you remember when Poland went down, I had mentioned that Stalin's also given a free hand on the Baltic states of Latvia, Estonia, and Lithuania, and Finland. And the Finns are going to fight like animals, boy. They got like ski warriors, and it's pretty amazing. They'll lose, but the Russians really struggle. And Hitler feels that their army's weak. Like, you can't even beat the Finns. Like, we're gonna kill you. Now, that ain't the case, but that's what Hitler thinks. And also, Hitler has been pretty much triumphant, besides the Battle of Britain, and everything that he's done so far. And he feels he's going to dominate here as well. In fact, his quote to his soldiers was, we need to do nothing but kick the door in, and the entire rotten house will come crumbling down. That's how he looked at it. Now, the Germans are planning on invading on June 22nd, 1941, and it's nicknamed Operation Barbarossa. All right, so this is the code name for the invasion of Russia. He's going to move almost 3 million soldiers to the Russian border. Now, you don't move 3 million soldiers to anyone's border and not have it detected. The Russians certainly see what's happening here. And all of the Russian officers are running to Stalin and saying, listen, the Nazis are going to attack us. We got to prepare. We got to get ready. It's coming. Stalin will not listen. I think I've said this before, but Stalin may have trusted one person in his entire life, and that person is Adolf Hitler. It's crazy. So he will not listen to this. And in fact, one German soldier swims across the river, tells the Soviets that they're coming, and Stalin goes, execute that man. We don't need any problems between us and the Germans. And he'll do nothing to prepare for this invasion. Now, as bad as this is going to go, we're going to talk about it's going to be rough for Russia here. You should be able to tell just by the date of the invasion that this is going to fail. What did I tell you about invading Russia? Never invade Russia in the summertime, because you will not get there. You will not get to Moscow before winter, and if you don't do that, then you're going to lose. And, there we go. Well, Hitler's better, right? Hitler doesn't have to follow the rules of history. Hitler can do whatever he wants. Okay, well, see how that plays out for him. Now, when the Russians attack on June 22nd, 1941, they're going to come into Russia, and the Russians are completely unprepared. Initially, the Nazis are going to sweep through Russia, and the carnage is extreme. We think in the first 2 months of this fighting, the Russians are going to lose 3 million soldiers. Keep in mind, in all of World War II, we're going to lose a little over 450,000 soldiers. When it's all said and done, we think that the Russians will lose 20 million in this war. To compare the American experience to what's happening here in Russia is pathetic. It's not even anything to talk about. The Russians are going to experience heartache and poverty in a way that it's difficult for us to comprehend. And we're going to go through that right now. It's going to be tough times as the Nazis begin to move in. Here are the Russians preparing to meet the threat. However, by the time they even mobilize, the German panzer divisions are just ripping through Russia. In fact, some of the first aerial attacks, the Russian cities are being bombed, and the Russians are like, who's bombing us? Like, they didn't even know that Germany was an enemy. I mean, that's how ignorant they are to what's going on here. When the panzer divisions start rolling in, Stalin goes to his retreat house, and for 2 days, there's nothing out of him. Finally, what's left of the Politburo goes to get him and see what's going to go on. Later in his memoirs, Stalin said when they walked into his room, he thought they were there to arrest him. He thought that he was done, that they were going to kill him. And when they say, like, what are we going to do? He's like, up, and starts to act. Now, his first act is to kill, we think, 20 to 30% of his officer corps for allowing the Nazis to penetrate into Russia, which only Stalin could make that decision after he made the mistake. But he's going to kill 20 to 30% of his officer corps, and that should really help Russia a lot in trying to stop this onslaught that's coming in. Now, as the Nazi, or I should say the German army divisions are moving through, the SS is following behind. And as the SS is following behind, they're starting the process. Boy, they're rounding up the Jews. They're putting concentration camps up in Poland, and they're starting to send these Jews right to these camps as quick as they can. So have no doubt that Hitler has ever forgot about killing the Jews. It's always on his mind. All right, and in this situation too, right after the German army, the SS will follow in. Now, pretty quickly, Russian armor, Russian Air Force is eliminated, and we're dealing with, pretty much Russians on the ground, and then like secondhand World War I stuff that they're trying to get into action. However, the Russians do have a resource that the Germans did not count on, and that is women. In communism, everyone's equal. So not only are you equal before war, you're equal in a war. So we are going to see women like actively fighting in every area of the service. We're going to see women in fighter planes. We're going to see women in tanks. We're going to see women on the ground as infantry. You know what I mean? This ain't like women nurses. That's nothing against women nurses. Nurses, super high priority and great for the soldiers. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about battle combat here, which we haven't seen this many women in combat for any country ever. I mean, I can give you examples of some female warriors, but as far as like mass mobilization of women, first time it's ever been done. In fact, this is a big problem for the Germans because, when the Germans are sitting down thinking about their invasion plan, they're thinking, okay, well, the Russians could put this many million men on the field, and that's way more than we have, but we can counter with our technology. When all of a sudden that number goes up 50%, all of your calculations on what you thought you could maybe do are totally thrown off. And the Germans couldn't even imagine putting women in combat. Like even at the end of the war in 45, when we're coming in from the west and the Russians are coming in from the east, and it's over for Germany, they won't put a rifle in a woman's hand. Won't do it. So when the Russians do this, they're completely caught off guard by this, and it's probably one of the big reasons that Germany's going to lose this campaign into Russia. Now, one cool thing that the women were used for is they were given these World War I bombers, and they would fly into the trenches at night. And as they got to the German trench line, or infantry line, they'd kick off their engine so you couldn't hear the plane. And then they would glide over and drop their bombs. And then the Germans would jump out and everyone's getting blown up and it's mass chaos. And then they kick the engine back on and fly out of there. The Germans called them the night witches because they would come at night and, the bombing would come out of nowhere. And they were pretty terrifying to the Germans. Also, women served very effectively as snipers in this war. There's a lot of debates on whether women are better snipers than men. The Soviet Union seemed to think so. Certainly there's a lot of debate. I think most people think that it doesn't really have to do with gender at all. It just has to do with hand-eye coordination and ability and training and all that kind of stuff. But certainly the Russians will use women as snipers and felt that they were better. Russian reports say that they thought that the women were more patient. So where a male sniper might move to get a better look, the woman would just wait there and wait there and wait there, and then eventually her target would appear and she'd take the shot. Now, how true that is, I don't know, but they're used a lot. And in fact, one of the greatest snipers of all time is this woman right here. Her name is Pavlichenko. She's actually a sniper before the war even starts. Like, as a little girl, she was a good shot, and she wanted to become a sniper, and she went to sniper school because it's Russia, and if you want to be a sniper, you can be. And before the war even starts, she's a sniper. When she went to sign up, they were like, okay, well, we'll put you in general infantry, and she's like, I'm a sniper. And they're like, stop it. And she pulls out her papers, and they're like, oh, you are a sniper. And they put her into sniper detail. Now, I don't have time to get through her whole story, but she's fascinating, boy. In just about not even a year of combat, she's going to kill 320 Nazis, a lot of officers. And she gets hurt several times. She's blown out of a tree by artillery. She's wounded significantly 3 times. And another famous story, whether I'm getting into it more than I want to, but she ended up falling in love with another, not a sniper, but another officer. And they were having lunch on a log, and the Germans had come up and started lofting artillery, and they get hit with a shell, and he, instinctively goes over to cover her, and he gets hit in the back with all the shrapnel, and he's killed. Needless to say, she's not too pleased about this, and the next day they sneak up on a German position with 22 guys, and she's got another sniper there with her, and he's like aiming for headshots, and she's like, no headshots today, stomachs only. And they just start hitting these guys in the gut, and those stomach injuries, boy, they take so long, they're so painful. She was not a happy woman that day. So, pretty famous Russian sniper. The reason she's only in the war for a year is not because she dies. This is her in, I think maybe the 1980s. I'd have to look at the picture. But she becomes a propaganda tool. So they send her all over Russia, speaking to people about snipers. She's involved in training. She comes over here. Her and Eleanor Roosevelt became good friends, crazily enough. Super interesting woman. This is her being honored by the Soviet Union in the 80s. And I've always thought, like, if you were just to see this like little old woman like walking down the street, you'd be like, oh, what a sweet old lady, Little did you know she shot 350 Nazis. It's unbelievable. But the Russians are utilizing their... Oh, I forgot I had this one. There is her and Eleanor Roosevelt. That's pretty cool. Now, despite the use of women, the Russians are in it, boy. The Germans are advancing very, very quickly, and they're beginning to move outside of Moscow by mid-November of 1940. Yeah, by 1941, mid-November, they're outside of Moscow. Now, you can see here as the Nazis are coming in, you can see the snow falling. Here's the Russian prisoners being taken out. You can see this guy's got no pants, no shoes. These Russian prisoners are just sent to camps to be killed. I mean, not like Holocaust, but they're just starved to death. So these guys are in a lot of trouble, but they have made their goal. They are outside of Moscow. However, the snow has begun to fall. And with all this snow, boy, we also have, and it's, again, I don't know your beliefs on faith, but it is fortunate, one of the worst Russian winters in their history. The Germans are reporting temperatures, when I first read them, I didn't even know existed. They're talking about negative 50 degrees Fahrenheit, which, oh my Lord, that's just crazy. I can't even imagine that. So, these temperatures are brutal, and I've told you before, the Russians only need two things to fight a war: snow and vodka. And they got plenty of both, boy. So, they're ready to go. Now, you can see here that the Germans penetrate. That's Moscow right there. So, I mean, they can see St. Basil's from where they're at. I mean, they're right there. Stalin calls for an all-out defense here. This might be a hard shot to see, but here's St. Basil's in the background. Here's the Russian army moving out. Here's some of their tanks heading towards St. Basil's. I gotta tell you, you know me, I'm no lover of communism, but the Russian ability to resist here is really something that needs to be applauded. When this is happening about 30 miles back, the Russians have got factories where they're building these tanks. They don't have roofs on them. Like, these are open air factories that have been makeshift set up, that the Germans are blowing holes in the roofs with the bombing. And when these tanks come out, like, they can't even put paint on them. It's just steel, I mean, they don't have any paint to put on them. And they're eating a diet that mainly consists of a bread that is 50% wheat, 50% sawdust. It was called black bread. Like, I wonder how many Americans are doing that. Like, working, let's say it's daytime, so negative 20 degree Fahrenheit in a factory, eating sawdust bread, and like, that's your day. That's what you're doing. Now, I will say, your wife and kids are on the line. Everyone knows what the Nazis are doing as they come through. Talk to the Polish, talk to anyone else. So you better win, because the carnage is going to be significant. And the Russians are all in, boy. I mean, it is unbelievable to see the resistance that's going on there. Now, normally I would not give Stalin any credit either, but in this point, in this position, he is going to do a good thing for the Soviet Union. They want to get him out of Moscow. They think it's going to go down. And he says, I'm not leaving. If it goes down, it goes down. I go down. I'm not running away. So I'll give him that. He's going to stay there. I don't think Hitler would have. Now, as the Germans engage, the Russians are putting up fierce resistance, and they can't break into the city. They just can't penetrate. And as we start to get into early, maybe late November, early December of 1941, Russian spies actually find out that the Japanese are getting ready to hit us at Pearl Harbor. They don't tell us, which is super slimy of them. But it's very helpful for Stalin. Stalin has an elite group of Siberian snow warriors. You can see their skis here, their white camo, that are sitting over on the coast of Japan, on the Russian coast near Japan, in case the Japanese turn on them, which the Japanese easily could. But when they find out the Japanese are not coming for them, now they bring these soldiers on the Trans-Siberian Railroad over to Moscow. And what happens in late December of 41 is the Russians issue a counterattack with these snow warriors. They come out on skis. They're trained to fight in the snow. And, the Germans are like, oh my God, now we're dealing with snow warrior special forces, which is pretty much what they are. Like, this is a great shot of them. Here's them sneaking up on a German position. Here's them surrounding the German position. I'm going to get a clicker here. It's on order from Amazon, so I won't be bending down all the time like that. Now, when this happens, Hitler gets super PO'd now. He rants to one of his generals that he can't believe that the German soldier can't defeat the Russian peasant. What has happened to us here? And he issues an order that there will be no surrendering. There'll be no putting up the hands. Like, every Russian shot, we're not taking any prisoners, no quarter. When he says this, and here's 2 Russian officers being shot, if you're a Russian, like, are you ever throwing up the hands? Like, you probably weren't throwing them up anyways, considering the savage fighting that's going on here. But now, like, once I find that out, like, I'm just fighting to the bitter end. And Russians are even fighting harder now after this order. And this puts Hitler in a position where he ain't getting into Moscow. And he's starting to now look at another place to break the Russian. And that place is going to be Stalingrad. All right, I'm going to switch my PowerPoint real quick. That is what he controls when he heads for Stalingrad. I can't be lucky. I'm not lucky enough to have it in that PowerPoint. But I got this other one ready to go. All right, there we go. And that is the overall invasion into Russia. And down here, you'll see Stalingrad. Now, Hitler wants Stalingrad for 2 reasons. One's a stupid reason, one's a practical reason. The stupid reason is it's named Stalingrad. He wants Stalin's city. Only Hitler. The practical reason is the Russian oil field does sit back here across what's called the Volga River. And if he was to get that, excuse me, it would really eliminate what the Russian army could do, both on the ground and in the air. Without gasoline, you're in some trouble. So it would be a good move if he could pull that off. So he begins to move guys away from Moscow and down to Stalingrad. And by the summer of 42, he's ready to hit Stalingrad with a pretty significant blow. Now, the Russians know it's coming. The Russian generals turn to Stalin and they go, hey, we got to evacuate Stalingrad. The Germans are coming in. It's going to be a big fight. And Stalin goes, no, don't evacuate anyone. The soldiers will fight harder for a live city than a dead one. So he doesn't let anyone leave. The German Luftwaffe comes in and they just pound the city. We think 60,000 people are killed just in the bombing. Women, children, no one's allowed to leave. Now, because there are oil refineries there, you get this black smoke above Stalingrad. And I tried to find this picture, but my history professor in college showed me it, and there's a couple articles about it. A black cross appeared in the sky, and the Germans thought that was Jesus on their side, and the Russians thought that was Jesus on their side. But there certainly was a big black cross. Obviously, we know it wasn't for the Nazis, but it's very, I don't know, I wouldn't say it's spooky, but it's, maybe mystical, kind of interesting. And also that kind of brings me to a quick little side note that Stalin has relaxed on religion. The churches have opened back up. Everyone's praying. He's totally backed off that now that, when they're in crisis, where's God? So he's backed off that now. Now, after the city is bombed, the survivors are told to dig in, and here they are in Stalingrad starting to dig in trenches. And the Russian army's getting set up for what's going to come here. Now, this might be hard for you to see, but this is the Volga River. And right here is Stalingrad. The Germans have penetrated into Stalingrad. On the other side of the Volga is where the Russians are building up. And then they're going to cross the Volga River here into Stalingrad while the Germans are hitting them with airplanes. That's how the battle is pretty much going to go, trying to hold this little zone from this area. There is an amazing movie called Enemy at the Gates, which has to deal with this. And it actually is probably like only the first 25 minutes of the movie, so you don't have to watch much of the movie at all. It shows them going across the Volga, and in class I would have showed you that scene because it's so good. And then there's a little Stalingrad fighting too, so if you're bored and you're interested, Enemy at the Gates. Good, I think you'll like it a lot. Now, like I was saying, as they're coming across the Volga here, they're getting machine gunned down and then into the city. Now, once you get into Stalingrad itself, there's the Volga. They were so short on supplies that they would put you in a line. You see this in Enemy at the Gates too. They put you in a line, and as you get up, they would give every other guy a gun. So if the guy in front of you got a gun, you don't get one. You get a handful of bullets. You put the bullets in your pockets. The instructions is, when the guy with the gun gets shot, you grab the gun and start firing. So when they do these charges, only half the Russians even have a weapon. Now, all the Germans have weapons and tanks and all this other stuff. Now, Stalin is also given the order not one step back, which means when you're ordered to charge, if you get repelled back and you run back to your lines, your officers are told to shoot you. So you're only going one direction. You're going forward. And if you don't take that German position, then you die trying. There's no coming back. And the Russians do. They machine gun down their own guys. It's insane. I've never seen anything like it in warfare before. I mean, it's crazy. Only Stalin. This is one of the reasons why Stalingrad is going to be the bloodiest battle in the history of warfare, and it's not even close. Total casualties in Stalingrad alone is 2 million. Just to put that into some perspective, that's 4 times the amount of people we lost in all of World War II. It's one battle. Now, even to hit that stat harder, for every 1,000 people that went in to Stalingrad, 1 walked out. That's the casualty rate. If you like your odds in that situation, you're a fool. 1,000 to 1. It's unbelievable. Now, like I was saying, the fighting in Stalingrad is going to be pretty savage here. And it's going to be, for you Call of Duty fans, it's going to be urban warfare. So you're fighting from room to room, which is kind of new to warfare. Fighting from building to building is not typical. You're normally on a battlefield. So, that was something the Germans had to kind of learn how to do. And the Russians are making you fight for every room, boy. Like, there's a famous journal by a German soldier that's there, and it's like September 21st, and he's like trying to take the grain silo. September 22nd, we've made it up to the front door of the grain silo, can't get in. September 23rd, we're into the grain silo, but we can't get up to the 2nd floor. September 24th, almost to the 2nd floor of the silo, should be at the top tomorrow. September 25th, we've taken the silo, 7 Russians dead, or 8 Russians dead, or something like that. So it's like multiple days to get up into like just a grain silo. I mean, that's how hard they're holding these positions. A lot of times they'll capture Russians, then they'll be like, show us where your, infantry is, and then show them like where a machine gun nest is, and then the machine gun nest will just cut down all the Germans and the Russian. It's just crazy the type of fighting that's going on here. The Russians are using snipers in these buildings, sniping German officers left and right here, trying to, cause some psychological damage. One of the best snipers in the Russian situation is this guy right here. His name is Vasily. He is a Russian peasant hunter who becomes a very celebrated sniper. And he is going to be involved in a very famous sniper duel that is going to cause both the Russian and the German army to fall back and allow these two guys to go in and basically like hunt each other in the city. Now, 1 second, my daughter is at the door.
Oh my gosh, sorry. Vic,
Hey, hon.
come on, get out of here.
I'm recording a lesson right now. You want to come up and say hi? Come on, hurry up, hurry up. All right. This is my daughter, Victoria. Say hi.
Hi.
Okay, I gotta finish my lesson.
Okay, come on.
All right. So, like I was saying, both armies move up or move back. I apologize. I'm getting my train of thought back here. Both armies move back, and they let these two guys go in. Now, the Russian guy, Vasily here's got a reporter with him because the Russians want to they think their guy's gonna win, and they want this to be a big propaganda piece, and they really want to sell this well. And so he's going around with this Russian sniper, and the reporter doesn't know what he's doing, so he pops his head up to ask a question, and Vasily's like, dude, keep your head down, man. Like, they're snipers, you gotta chill out. He talks super loud. Vasily's like, dude, quiet down, man. Well, one time, this reporter, unfortunately, he pops his head up to ask Vasily a question, and this German sniper just takes him out, boy, And bad for the reporter, good for Vasily. He had seen the glint of the German sniper's scope, and he's going to take a shot that has gone down in sniper legend. Apparently, Vasily is going to fire a bullet through the German sniper's scope, into the eye, out the back. If he did make that shot, bravo, sir. They've done it on Mythbusters, and it's possible. Now, whether or not he did it, hard to tell, but the Russians say he did it. I want to believe he did it, so he did it. So this is kind of a cool side note of Stalingrad. To end out Stalingrad and my lesson for today, one of the ultimate German weaknesses will do them in the end again. The Germans do not feel that the Russians are capable of launching an offensive. All they can do is react to what the Germans do. So they're not paying attention to a military buildup that is going on over here, with also American tanks and weapons, by the way. And in the winter of '43, the Russians are going to come across the Volga from both sides with what they've been stockpiling. And when they come across from both sides, they come around and encircle the German army. Back. Encircle the German army. Here is them meeting up in the encirclement. Once they encircle the German army, the general there, the German general Paulus, asked Hitler for permission to break out. He could pick one area of the circle and send everything he has at it and break out. Hitler says no. He'll relieve him by air. Don't abandon Stalingrad. So Paulus stays. Hitler cannot relieve him by air. These guys are getting no supplies. The Russians have set up their artillery. They're just firing on the Germans in a circle. And finally, Paulus surrenders. This is about 200,000 Germans that are going to surrender at the end. Out of that 200,000, 5,000 will see their homes again. The rest will die in gulags. I do feel somewhat bad for them, but you reap what you sow. They're going to pay the price. Now, the reason Stalingrad is such an important battle is Stalingrad is the turning point in the European war. And once the Russians are able to win at Stalingrad, they're going to slowly begin to push the Germans out of Russia. And when we talk tomorrow, we're going to land in Africa, and we're going to start pushing on the other side, and that's going to be it for the Germans. Thanks so much. I'm interested to see how long I went today. Hopefully you're liking these recordings, and I'll have another one up tomorrow.